All right, Dianna, I'm going to kick this off today because of Aaron Rodgers. And we've talked a lot about Aaron Rodgers. You've talked a lot about Aaron Rodgers. The NFL Network has talked a lot about Aaron Rodgers. You reported, and I listened to you very, very carefully because you're one of the best in the game, that Aaron Rodgers and the Vikings are still possibly talking. And then NFL Network comes out and they say, hey, for now, that was the key word, that JJ McCarthy is the starting quarterback. And as of right now, Aaron Rodgers has no intent to sign with the Minnesota Vikings, and the Minnesota Vikings have no intent to sign Aaron Rodgers. What in the world is going on?
Yeah, so look, you know what we've been saying this entire time, which is there have been three teams interested in Rodgers. You've got the Pittsburgh Steelers, the New York Giants, who have both offered a contract. So Aaron knows exactly what it is that they're willing to pay and what they want from him. The Minnesota Vikings and Rodgers were in touch over the last week or so, and inside the building, they were having serious conversations about if they even wanted to do this, right? Rodgers was sitting back waiting for them to make a decision. And in the end, the Minnesota Vikings made a decision to move on from that conversation for now. Okay, and what this does and what this tells you is that the Vikings have confidence and belief in where JJ McCarthy is at, right? So we know that he's coming off a meniscus tear. He's dealing with the knee injury. They feel good about where he's at. But make no mistake, they're making a very bold decision here by making sure the world knows that JJ McCarthy is their guy, right? That report comes out not because they wanted to put to bed that there's a possibility of Aaron Rodgers. I think that report comes out because they want JJ McCarthy to know that they've got the confidence and the belief in what he can do. So, you know, you go back to January and you hear Kevin O'Connell up at the podium talking to the media, and they weren't committing to JJ McCarthy being the starter. But then you look at the decisions that they've made since then. They've moved on from Sam Darnold. That's a choice. They moved on from Daniel Jones. That's a choice. They moved on from a future Hall of Fame quarterback in Aaron Rodgers. That's a choice. So that tells me that Kevin O'Connell has hitched his wagon and the Minnesota Vikings organization to JJ McCarthy without ever taking a snap in an actual football game.
Was that smart?
They must feel confident that he can do the job. They must believe that he is the one. Because think about how many decisions have to be made for them to say, the guy we traded up for and picked at 10 is the future. But all we know is what he did in a few weeks of training camp, what he did in the offseason program in the spring, which from everything I know was very good, from how he handled rehab during the season, being in the meeting rooms, meeting with Kevin once a week to go through this offense. They must feel so sure that his ability, his trajectory is better than any of those three other options. And that is a gamble, but it's a gamble they're willing to take.
Well, we're sure as of now, right? That's the key word in all this situation. As of today, that JJ is the guy. Will they be so sure in the spring? Like, what I'm reading without you fully saying is that at some point they haven't completely closed the door on Aaron Rodgers potentially joining them. Is that what I'm hearing?
There is no in or out on Aaron Rodgers. We're on pause, right? Because the Vikings need to see more from JJ McCarthy this spring. Now, I want to know from you, what are you going to see in the spring from a player that you don't already know? The spring is nothing.
Look, I go back to my time in when I was a backup quarterback. I'm not in the situation that JJ's in, vying for a starting job. But Sean Payton in New Orleans used to always tell me this. Look, OTAs are important. Phase 1. Go ahead and go lift, go throw with the receivers by yourself, get some timing down. That's great. Phase 2, hey, coaches can do some individual work on the field. You're lifting, you're throwing, but, it's not 7-on-7. It's not 11-11. Oh, okay, phase 3, there's this OTA actual practice where there's just helmets, there's no shoulder. It's not real football. Sean Payton, I say that to say, and I'll always remember this, he said, I could care less what you do in OTAs or even training camp or even anything else. The only thing that matters to me in this organization is how you play between the white lines in a real game. And I'll give it to JJ. Last year, there was one game he played well. He threw an interception early because I remember breaking down that game, and then he understood, like, hey, you got to get it going a little bit. He played well. So I don't think you can prove really anything in the spring. One, maybe you're healthy physically. I think, the meniscus injury, how's that reacting to it? But I do think it's a gamble. I do think it's a big gamble, and I don't think that it's smart, and it doesn't seem like they should shut the door on anyone because, first of all, they're probably going to sign a veteran, right? Aaron Rodgers or not, you can't really go into the year with a guy who's unproven. And I'm not saying that, I came out strong last podcast. Like, Aaron Rodgers gives them the best chance to win a Super Bowl this year. I'm not saying in years past, but you have to look at the roster, or years forward. You have to look at the roster that the Minnesota Vikings have built, and it is a huge gamble to take with JJ. You're hoping, and you've done your research on JJ, that he's going to vault the franchise in, but I do think it's a little bit of a gamble.
Yeah, they've made upgrades in the trenches. They brought back Byron Murphy, Harrison Smith, Aaron Jones. The roster on paper is a Super Bowl caliber winning team. The part that's missing is JJ. And by them moving on from Sam, Daniel, and Aaron Rodgers, that just tells me that they believe that JJ McCarthy is good enough to step in this upcoming season and win with this team because it's built to win now, right? And
so I agree. And I just want to interject because I do have a stat, we were talking about mathematician stat that I got from Fox Research. So we actually did some research on this. Since I think the last 20 or 30 years, there have been 11 quarterbacks who have not that were rookies in year one, and then they go into year two and they started 0 games their rookie year. There's only been 11, okay? 10 of those rookie quarterbacks, there's some big names, have not made the playoffs. 10. So history would tell you that JJ McCarthy and the Vikings are not going to make the playoffs. Like, that's just history. You're going with a guy who's never started an NFL game. So it's an interesting move right now. I know it to take some heat off of JJ because we've been talking up JJ. National Beat has been talking up JJ. We don't know how fragile he is mentally. We don't know where he's at. All that stuff, that comes into play for sure. But to finally get behind him seems like a big step in the Minnesota Vikings journey.
Well, you just said it. Statistically, it's probably going to be a long shot for them to win in the playoffs. Kevin O'Connell has never won a playoff game, despite the fact that he's had so much success with all these different quarterbacks. And he's certainly the quarterback whisperer here. No doubt. I don't think anyone is challenging his ability and credibility around the league. He is a top head coach in football. But in a win-now league, in a dog-eat-dog environment here, you are making a very bold choice here. You are tethered to JJ McCarthy now if you are not bringing Aaron Rodgers in at this moment. Now, look, again, this could change. They could have again, I don't know what they're going to see in an OTA that's going to make them go, you know what? Call Aaron line one. And by the way, we haven't even touched on the Aaron side to this, right? Because you have some ego there. You've got, I'm sure, a little bit of indecision. He's got 2 teams thirsty for him in the Pittsburgh Steelers who are going to probably want an answer soon. You've got the New York Giants who want an answer. He wants to play in Minnesota. The Rams were his first choice. Is he going to be patient enough to sit and go, all right, I'm willing to take the chance to roll the dice that maybe JJ McCarthy won't be impressive in the spring and they'll bring me in? And by the way, how do you manage that organizationally? What if that happens? Yeah. Right?
That's going to look bad on the Minnesota Vikings if they do that, because if they sign Aaron Rodgers, they're telling the world, hold on, JJ McCarthy in the spring is not what we thought. You know what I mean?
In the easy spring, right?
Yeah.
Like, we're not talking about full training camp pads here where it's intense. We're talking about an easy practice is not good enough. So now let's just like go through the options for the Vikings. Okay, you say, all right, we're going to rest him more. He needs to just sit and watch. We're going to roll with Aaron. We still believe in him. He's still the future. That's like A. B, are you going to trade him now? You certainly lost a lot of the value in him compared to the kind of value they could have had if
trade him.
What,
it would just look bad on the Vikings, right?
Just go back to when Sam was winning, right? Like,
yeah.
If you think about it, if they wanted to stick with Sam, if they thought Sam was good enough, because you know that they probably had to make a decision there of, do we keep Sam and continue to let JJ sit? And perhaps he demands a trade, right? Because you have to figure he's not going to want to sit behind Sam Darnold, right?
It's fascinating to me they let Sam walk for $37.5 million.
They let Sam walk for one reason. Because they're invested and hitching their wagon to JJ McCarthy. It's not that difficult to see from the outside of they've made a conscious decision to do this. And look, I give them credit for believing in him because you don't see this a lot. They made a choice. They picked this kid and they are going to ride it. And they're willing to move past these other options.
I'd push back on that a little bit because if they were so entrenched with trusting JJ to be the franchise quarterback like they drafted him 10th overall, then why even have conversations with Aaron Rodgers, who's a one-year rental? So it tells me that they're a little bit indecisive. I think what it tells me, and I mean, you obviously know more than me. I'm just reading between the lines here. It tells me that they didn't feel Sam was worth the amount of money that he was demanding to come in and play because they could have had Sam for another year.
I don't think Sam was demanding that much from the Vikings. I don't think Sam, at the end of the day, was going to tell them that I need to be paid the highest paid I could possibly get, what the market tells me. I know Sam liked being in Minnesota. So they still made that call then probably of, we want to ride with our young pick.
So and with the Rodgers thing, that's what's fascinating to me because I want to move this conversation forward because I don't mean to cut you off. I think that the Rodgers thing is more fascinating to me because if you're Aaron Rodgers and the best team out there doesn't want you right now is what we're saying. And you ask me, do you think he should wait? Does he wait for the Vikings? Does he go to the Steelers? I wouldn't personally go to the Giants. It was always for me with Rodgers, it was always Vikings or retire. And I do not say that lightly because retiring from the game of football, I don't care if you're a 10-time All-Pro, I don't care if you're a 4-time MVP, I don't care if you're a backup, I don't care if you've played 3 years, I don't care if you played 1 year. The finality of it is very difficult for players to come to terms with. And when you have that situation coming up, this is why I think Aaron Rodgers, as you see him walking on the beach, you see him doing this, it's a very difficult decision because with a lot of guys, Dianna, and you know this, you've been covering this league longer than I've played in the league, is that when you're a football player, a lot, not all, most players have their identity as a football player. So if they're an expert at football, usually after they retire, they want to get into something to do with football. And what are those two occupations? One, the media. How many ex-football guys do you see going into the media to have that camaraderie, to have that team, to have that passion, right? So that happens a lot. There's not a lot of spots in there. And then most of them want to get to coaching. Well, Aaron's not going into coaching. And he's damn sure not going to the media, at least what I heard some media companies say about him, And so for him, you got to think in his mind, put yourself, it's like, man, I'm not going to coach. I don't need the money. And I'm probably not going to do media. So this could be his last chance at being around the game of football, unless he gets into ownership, which, he's got a ton of money. He might do that. I don't know. But it's a hard decision because why go to the Steelers if you don't think it's a good enough roster, you would already pick them, and you don't think they're going to go to the Super Bowl, and you don't think they're going to, why play for another year and make the playoffs and lose the first round? Like it doesn't further your legacy. Like the Vikings to me are a team that he could further his legacy with. Like it was like Brett Favre, who had one of his best years ever with the Vikings, went to the NFC Championship game. We played him. Like I don't know if he can struggle through another year of mediocrity and be like, okay, I'm good with that.
I think he knows that. I think that's why he's going to probably wait. Look, he could still decide tomorrow, wake up and go, you know what? I want to play for Mike Tomlin. I want to see what Arthur Smith and I could do, how I could get back to playing at a high level. I don't want my last game to be with the New York Jets. He could retire, or he could sit this out and go, I could see a lane where I could get in with Minnesota if their quarterback isn't progressing at the pace that they want with a roster built to win. So I just think the Vikings took this time to really think about how this could affect not just the team right now, how this could affect JJ McCarthy mentally, how this could affect the future years of the Minnesota Vikings, how this could affect Kevin O'Connell's legacy, Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah's legacy. These are all the decision makers that had to come together to go, is this the right move? Do we want to do this? And the fact that all this time has gone by, they have not signed a veteran quarterback just yet. And I think they're going to be comfortable riding the spring without one. I could see them doing this. I mean, maybe they'll get one guy, but I think deep down, the hope is obviously JJ is unbelievable this spring and they don't have to worry about any of this. But they're not there yet. So as JJ goes, so do the Vikings.
Kicking the can down the road, huh?
Thanks for tuning into Scoop City. If you want to hear more, make sure you like and subscribe. We drop our new episodes every Tuesday and Friday.